Landlords in New York are being fined by the city for damage and vandalism that is done by the tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of New York, right? So it's not out of New York City, it's actually out of a different part of the state for once, but still, it's just as bad for landlords up there, okay? So landlords are being fined by the city of Schenectady for damage and vandalism that the tenants are committing against their properties, right? So basically what's happening is the tenants and they're just trashing these landlords' properties, right? Breaking windows out, committing all these offenses against local ordinance, and rather than finding the tenants, the ones who actually caused the problem, they're coming after the landlord and saying, hey, you need to pay this, you need to pay that, right? On top of that, these landlords, they weren't getting paid during the eviction moratorium, and a lot of these tenants are darn near impossible to evict right now even, okay? The state of New York is trying to pass these good cause eviction laws that'll keep these bad tenants in these properties forever, okay? And that's why they're trying to fight against all this stuff. They're going up to their city council and telling them, hey, look at these images. Look at this damage that these tenants caused. This is the kind of tenant that you're going to tell me that I can't evict. And then you're going to fine me for the damage that they caused. That's ridiculous, okay? And I know that in most states even, this is a civil issue, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It should be a criminal issue when you have a tenant who is damaging someone else's property like that. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. What do you think of a city that is fining landlords when the tenants who are living in the property are busting the windows out of the property? Okay? What do you think of that, especially when these tenants aren't paying rent? I think it is complete garbage. I think that this city has lost their mind and that they are not looking at it from the perspective of the property owners and of the landlords, okay? Now, they're like, oh, you want to help these poor tenants, but they never realize that, hey, there are some tenants out there who are bad tenants, and they're going to abuse the systems that they put in place because they know they can get away with it. So there needs to be checks and balances for this sort of tenants, and there just aren't. Oh, man. Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous. So let's get into this article. And it's coming from CBS 6 Albany. And it says, Schenectady landlords want city to hold tenants who vandalize rental property accountable. Hey, I don't blame them one bit. And that's what we all want. We want these tenants who don't pay their rent, who tear up our properties, etc., to be held accountable and not be punished for the bad deeds that they're doing to us, by the way. Okay? So let's get into this article and see what it says. Holding up signs and sharing their stories, landlords in Schenectady are asking the city council for help after they say they keep getting fined by the city for damages done by the tenants. During Monday night city council meeting, fed up landlords went up one by one to share their stories. From cement down sink pipes to pulling out electrical wires, they described the damages done on their rental properties. They asked the city council for help from the codes department and police department in these situations. Help they say they're not getting. Yeah, they will find that, hey, you're in violation of city code, okay? Your property is not up to our standards, and you could go there and you could fix it. You could fix everything up to their standards, and then the tenant just breaks it again, and then the city comes and finds you. Okay, this is the definition of unfairness. Okay, the pure definition. So people who lack the responsibility and the just the moral standard to be able to take care of someone else's property that you agreed to take care of, well, you know what? They don't deserve any sort of protection. Okay, they deserve to be thrown out. That's the first thing. They deserve to be sued for the damages. You're not getting your security deposit back. And, you should have an eviction, a red mark on your record to warn all the other landlords, don't rent to this person because this person will do the same to you. Okay? But that's my opinion. Now, obviously, in a place like New York, that just is not going to be happening. Okay? But let's keep going. The police's job is to protect... Oh, I'm sorry. Several times we called the police for the tenant, and the police told us they could not do nothing. And in front of the police, the tenant broke the window, and the police told us it's a civil matter. They can't do nothing, said Don Diego Budhu, who has rental properties in Schenectady. The police's job is to protect lives and property, he adds. Yeah, and I agree, right? This should be, in a normal situation, when you have vandalism done like that, it would be, the police who say, hey, we're going to go find the people who committed this vandalism, and we're going to, either find them or arrest them. Okay, but when it comes to a landlord-tenant situation, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, nothing we can do. That has always blown my mind. But hey, this is pretty common throughout the entire country. I mean, even here in Nebraska, you're not going to be able to get the police to do anything in this sort of situation. And that's unfortunate, okay? Now, as for these damages, they actually have a few pictures in this article of some of the damages that the landlords had gotten on their property. And I'll throw them up on the screen just so you can see, hey, these landlords were getting fined by the city for this damage that these tenants were doing. And that's just not fair. It's not right. And, I think that the city is completely out of line by trying to fine these landlords for these issues. Both he and his wife, Mina, spoke before the city council Monday night. The couple shared posters showing the damage done to their properties by tenants, who they say also haven't been paying rent. Changes need to occur in the city of Schenectady. We need to see fairness, Mina said to the council after she described how a tenant pulled a knife on her husband when he wanted to go on the property to repair the damages. They say not only do they have to foot the bill without any income coming in, but they were also slapped with fines from the city. The tenant caused the destruction, and with the electrical furnace appliance, they would flood the house, and the city inspector would give us the violation, even though the tenant caused the destruction, said Dan Diego. The city fined me $500, and each day I didn't fix it, they add an additional $6,500, he added. Wow, okay? City fined him all that money. $500 plus $6,500. Goodness, man. I mean, what is this ridiculous nonsense? When he goes there to try to fix it, guess what the tenant does? Pulls a knife on him. Okay? This is the kind of tenant that you need to just get like an eviction on, but they couldn't get these people out of there. Why? Why? And they're going to get into why a little bit lower here. It says, CBS 6's Brianna Sapardi caught up with the Schenectady mayor, Gary McCarthy, after the meeting to get his response to the issues landlords in his city say they're facing. A lot of them, unfortunately, have to go through the court system, and we look to work with any property owner in the city. We want compliance, so we don't want to fine somebody, and we don't want to cite them. We're looking to make sure everybody has safe and decent housing, and they're playing by the rules, said McCarthy. How the hell are you supposed to provide somebody with safe and decent housing when they're tearing it up themselves? See, and this is the problem I have with a lot of these rules, okay? So they're like, hey, the landlord has them living in unsafe conditions or unsanitary conditions, but there's no mention of, hey, when you rented the place wasn't unsafe or unsanitary. So what happened in between when you first rented the place and now? Well, in a lot of these situations, what the tenants do is they tear the properties up themselves. They trash it themselves. All the bug problems, they're caused because the tenants aren't clean, okay? The tenants cause the bug and the rodent and the pest problems. And then they blame the landlord for them being there. The landlord goes in there and sprays, and it can't kill them all because the tenants never clean up, okay? The only thing you can do to get rid of these problems is to get rid of the tenant. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. They're so worried about keeping these people in place and then providing them with safe housing that, hey, guess what? There's no response to, hey, the landlord tried to provide safe housing, the tenant wouldn't let them, or the tenant, made the housing unsafe again after they fixed things. Okay, there's no response to that. The only thing a landlord could do in that situation would be to evict. And in a lot of cases, they're not able to do that. Okay? So, Monday's discussion comes at the same time statewide good cause eviction legislation is being discussed. A new poll by the city and state and the Honan Strategy Group found that 69% of people polled support more protections for tenants against rent increases and evictions. The bill would end no-fault evictions in New York State and allow for automatic lease renewals for most tenants. It would also require that landlords justify rent increases that are higher than 3%. Any increase beyond 3% would be fought in court. So they say here, and this is something that's important, right? 69% of people supported more protections for tenants and against rent increases and evictions, right? But it doesn't say that 69% of people support good cause eviction legislation that wraps in a rent control provision. It doesn't say that, okay? If you explained that to a lot of the voters, they would be like, hey, that's not a good idea at all, you know? The landlord should be able to end a tenancy at the end of a person's lease, you know? But a lot of people aren't going to do that. And those who do, keep in mind that in a lot of cities, there are more renters than there are landlords. There are more renters than there are homeowners. So yeah, renters are going to vote in their own best interest in these cases. Okay, that's just it's pretty simple. But that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do, and it also doesn't mean that it's the constitutional and legal thing to do. Okay, and that's what my problem is. I don't think that those kind of good cause eviction rules are even constitutional. So yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to be pushing for. They're going to be pushing for this good cause legislation to protect these awful tenants. And for now, these landlords, they have nothing that they can do, right? They were put in a horrible situation by all the eviction moratorium nonsense and, courts being backed up, etc. And yeah, they're in upstate New York. They're not in New York City. But the whole state could fall under this new good cause eviction legislation, and that could hurt everyone.